Hello guys and welcome back to the Crypt. In today's video, we're going to be exploring the climactic, action-packed, and dramatic story that is Uncharted 4: A Thief's End. A game worth playing with the added challenge of crushing difficulty. Now, to you, this difficulty might turn this AAA blockbuster game into a test of patience. And while yes, at times this difficulty did try my patience, these frustrations were few and far between. Rather, the difficulty comes second to my enjoyment of reliving the best experiences of Uncharted 4, the story, action, and unforgettable characters. Uncharted 4 also serves as PlayStation's system seller for its 8th generation console, that is the PS4. I didn't have a PS4, but buying a PS5, I finally got to experience this game in the Legacy of Thieves collection, amongst other games I missed out on. Games like Final Fantasy Remake, The Last of Us Part 2, God of War 4, and even the re-release of the Uncharted games in the Nathan Drake collection. The Legacy of Thieves collection even had a PC release as well, so now even PC gamers can experience this game in its hardest difficulty. Beating this game on Crushing is a requirement for the Platinum Trophy, so this will be my second playthrough on Crushing, this time though for the video and not said trophy. Crushing difficulty dials up the combat to 11, and let's go over why. Enemies have better weapons, armor, and equipment, and spawn in greater numbers. I also found checkpoints encounters to be more unforgiving, as we'll see later in this video. You also get less ammo, so like my Gears 5 playthrough, this difficulty is more survival based. These changes are definitely noticeable in enemy encounters in the game. For instance, when I pick up an assault rifle and it only has half a clip of ammo, or how in certain encounters, enemies can take more damage because of their armor. All these make each enemy encounter a frantic scramble to find ammo, stay in cover, and stay alive. Each shot needs to land, and headshots are sometimes required. For this difficulty, we have to master the use of rolling into cover, transitioning from cover to cover, and making each shot count. We also need to master takedown from ledges, tall grass, and corners to conserve our ammo. Thankfully, Uncharted's gameplay is relatively straightforward and not that deep, so it wasn't hard for me to relearn playing this game. Nate moves with little restriction, but on rare occasions, this can work against you when Nate doesn't go where you want him to. When he grabs a ledge or moves somewhere unintended on Crushing, it usually ends in death. These deaths are not necessarily the player's fault, but due to some janky movement. Well, with that being said, let's jump into Nate's last adventure on Crushing difficulty. The first chapter opens with Nate in a boat being chased by enemies. In the first 5 minutes of this game, I'm already feeling the difficulty in the gameplay. Oh, okay. I did not think you could die during this intro.
Big bomb launcher, take him out!
The next chapter has us playing as Nate when he was a prepubescent boy in an orphanage. And difficulty aside, I end up getting caught by the most fearsome enemy in this game, nuns.
Come on, move it.
Nathan,
What? I got caught?
you're in big trouble.
Cutting back to the future when we see Nate fighting in a Mexican prison with this Mexican gangster. I guess Nate got him deported from America or something? This is definitely some third world prison for sure when treatment of inmates is not regulated. What is also not regulated is their handcuffs, because they're definitely not up to par. I noticed this glitch when I first played the game. If you aim, the handcuffs break. So you can see them right there on Nate's right arm. Immersion broken. We later meet up with Sam and Rafe being this gang's villain later in the story. We get into another prison fight with a Mexican gangster from earlier because his American passport was denied. And I certainly was not ready for this fight. I was not ready for that fight. Died in 3 punches. This part is the introduction to hand-to-hand combat, which on this difficulty is near impractical because you'll die before ever getting close enough to enemies. Most enemies will shoot you dead before getting within 5 feet of them. Flash forward to 15 years later, we see Nate and Elena living a milquetoast married life. Nate challenges Elena to beat him on this TV game thing. Honestly, it's pretty surreal and ironic Nate doesn't know what an Xbox is. But here we play Sonic's ass game to beat Elena's score. What? I didn't beat her. Not all the challenges we face in this game comes from the difficulty. The next chapter, we play as Sam escaping from prison. And ironically, I was told to take cover right before I died from not being in cover. Besides this death, this prison escape was not difficult. I found I had more than enough ammo to deal with enemies, and enemies were pretty easy to kill. In chapter 7, Nate and company are trying to escape an auction with heavily armed guards. Here's our introduction to stealth takedowns and hiding in tall grass. And while handling encounters with stealth is ideal for crushing difficulty, I am sometimes too impatient for it. Enemies on this difficulty can see you a mile away, so stealth is definitely hard to do, but not impossible. We later get into a fight with Nadine.
Oh, scusi.
You're not supposed to be back here.
Well, neither are you. But I'll tell you what, I won't tell anyone if you don't.
You have something I want, and you're going to give it to me.
Really? Well, I'm flattered, but I'm afraid I'm spoken for. If you'll excuse me.
I'm unsure if crushing difficulty affected this fight because Nate is supposed to take a beating here and I didn't die in 2 hits like before. In later encounters with the guards, I take out as many as I can stealthily, with some encounters leading to a gunfight. What I noticed here is the enemy AI is smart because if you stay in cover, enemies will flank you to force you out of cover. And on this difficulty, that often leads to death when you're staying in cover to heal. Later with Sam in another enemy encounter, we get shotgun enemies. Shotgun enemies behave differently in that they slowly walk towards you while shooting you. This can force you to deal with these enemies first or move out of cover, exposing you to gunshots. And when you're exposed on crushing difficulty, death can happen in just a few seconds.
No! Shotgun! Nathan! Nathan!
This particular encounter amps up the difficulty with enemies having shotguns and assault rifles. And this is only chapter 7 out of the 22 chapters in this game. In the next chapter, we have an encounter with Nadine's mercenary group, Shoreline. Here we get lightly armored enemies and the opportunity for more stealth takedowns. I try my best to thin the herd with a few stealth takedowns, but end up going loud.
Nathan!
It's here I also noticed enemies have pinpoint accuracy with grenades, and they often use grenades to force you out of cover. In the following encounter, I fight more Shoreline enemies after leaving this grave. The terrain in this fight is very vertical, and after a few deaths, I found it easier to stick to this one area and bottleneck enemies. Looking for the last enemy, I find myself carefully searching for them as to not to be suddenly attacked and killed. Restarts are punishing on crushing difficulty because you have to restart the entire enemy encounter. This difficulty had me tiptoeing around to find remaining enemies so I don't get killed and have to restart the encounter. In a later encounter, we're introduced to snipers. Snipers have lasers to indicate where they're aiming. If they get a lock onto you, it's an instant death, so it's best to avoid it by dodge rolling or staying in cover. The latter being the better option on this difficulty because you never want to be exposed to gunfire when you're rolling. I deal with the enemies and the sniper by staying behind this cover and taking out enemies one by one, leaving the sniper for last. And this death, I can't blame the difficulty. While I didn't show any of this so far in the video, encounters are only like a quarter of this game. The other parts being traversal, puzzle solving, and the story.
Oh, crap! Remember extra care? Thanks. Okay. Okay, we're good. We're good.
Honestly, even if you found encounters difficult because of the difficulty, they're broken up so frequently with slower parts of the game, it's easy to forgive. Tough encounters are balanced with Nate and company having a conversation while, for example, scaling a cliffside. I find myself just soaking in these conversations between encounters. It's almost therapeutic in a way to unwind and just enjoy these well-written characters talk. These moments do have occasional action with things falling apart as Nate steps or climbs onto them to keep the action alive. And my god, if Nate had $1 every time time something fell apart as he was on it, he could probably pay off his mortgage. But moving on, I solved this puzzle quickly because I'm a big brain gamer. Inside, we're caught by Nadine and her goons and have an escape sequence from this hidden temple while it's collapsing. Of course, fighting Nadine's Shoreline goons on our way out. There was a nice touch in this game when I was out of ammo and enemies realized that when I tried to shoot. In this encounter, you're pinned by a turret, but if you're a good enough shot, you can take out the gunner. Nearing the end of our escape, one of the enemies I pulled down from a ledge grabs Nate. I've never seen this done before, and that enemy must have grabbed Nate so hard it broke his arm. It's okay, Nate, I know a good chiropractor that can fix you right up. Or maybe you already know one. Fading into the next chapter, we're taken to Madagascar. Here the game opens up with optional places to explore and enemies to encounter. This one enemy encounter, I make use of the vehicle and ram 2 enemies, engaging in a loud firefight. And while I said hand-to-hand combat is mostly impractical, when defeating an enemy and your weapon is out of ammo, Nate takes their weapon in a special takedown. This is a pretty useful mechanic and is appreciated here on crushing difficulty because I'm often out of ammo. Tall grass in this game serves as a means to stealthily kill enemies and hide their bodies. But in this encounter and later ones, I find myself getting shot from enemies I can't see behind tall grass. Considering enemies have pinpoint accuracy, this is frustrating to deal with. I've had quite a few deaths during this encounter and later encounters in this playthrough because of this. This particular encounter was tough and forced me to reconsider my approach. So I parked the vehicle farther away from the enemies and approached the tower from a different angle. And while I'm not sure how I could have handled this stealthily, I go loud and stay behind this rock. There are a couple RPG enemies that are relentless, but with just an RPG and a pistol, I beat this encounter a wall depleting all my ammo. If this one enemy didn't die with my last bullet, I would have probably failed. In a later optional encounter, I silently take down enemies only for Victor goddamn Sullivan to go loud and get me spotted. I guess Sully has no patience for stealth either, even when I'm trying to be stealthy. Later in the chapter, Nate and company discover more clues about Captain Avery's treasure, but are interrupted by Shoreline. This encounter introduces heavily armored shotgun enemies. Like shotgun enemies from before, they walk slowly towards you, but with layers of armor protecting them. And hand-to-hand combat is not an option. The best way to deal with these enemies is to chip away at their armor to expose their head and land a headshot. But that's easier said than done, especially on this difficulty. In combination with other enemies in this encounter, this was quite a hard fight. In the next chapter, we solve this traversal puzzle inside a church. It takes a good amount of time, I think, to traverse your way to ring these 4 bells and eventually the big bell at the top, only to break all of it and force our way into where we need to go. Inside, we solve another puzzle with our dated Sony phone. If you ever watched older things like movies, technology like phones really dates it. Considering Uncharted 4 released in 2016, it's no exception. Anyway, Rafe discovers our location and Nate decides he's gonna buy an iPhone. Here we get another encounter with Shoreline, this time accompanied by an armored truck. This part wasn't too hard with only 1 death. The encounter transitions into a vehicle sequence in which you're trying to escape the armored truck. Here's one of the only times crushing difficulty comes into play outside of encounters as you take more damage from the armored truck. This leads to a couple deaths during this segment, one because I hit an invincible palm tree. This vehicle chase sequence transitions to Nate jumping vehicle to vehicle while taking out Shoreline goons. Running out of ammo here is a death sentence, so you need to constantly jump from vehicle to vehicle to get ammo and kill enemies. Of course, anytime you're not in cover, you're exposed to gunfire, which is incredibly risky on crushing difficulty. And when my ammo ran dry, I tried jumping to another vehicle before my vehicle explodes. But like I mentioned earlier, the game's occasional janky movement works against you. Instead of jumping to the next vehicle like intended, I end up grabbing the front of the truck and getting killed. Watching this footage, I think I'm at fault because I didn't jump before reaching the edge of the truck. And there's a mechanic in Uncharted 4 that if you walk or roll over a ledge, you automatically grab the ledge. Hey guys, quick interjection here. If you liked the video so far, leave a like and subscribe down below. And let me know in the comments what games you would like for me to play in the future. Anyway, back to the video. Moving forward, we get into another encounter that's arguably the hardest encounter in this playthrough. There's an incredible number of enemies in this encounter and plenty of tall grass for stealth takedowns. But like before, the tall grass kind of works against you in that it obstructs your view of enemies shooting you. Seriously, I'm taking damage from an enemy I can't see who's barely exposed from cover. This encounter feels like two encounters combined into one because once you kill all enemies in this first part, enemies ahead are not aware of you, giving you the opportunity for stealth. This encounter also introduces the minigun enemy, and this enemy is the hardest enemy you'll encounter in the game. They have an incredible amount of armor and firepower, and just like shotgun enemies, they'll walk slowly towards you while shooting you. You have a small window between their shots to chip away at their armor. But the real only way to kill minigun enemies on this difficulty is to expose their head for a quick headshot. And dying in this encounter means you have to restart back to the very beginning when you had no ammo or weapons. It's a hell of a punishment and was probably the most frustrating part of this playthrough.
Here we go.
Oh, that didn't last very long.
We can't just talk about it.
Damn it. Oh, all the way from the beginning. Oh. And these enemies are shooting me from a mile away. Oh my god, all the ways back here. All right. Ah, got all sloppy there.
Come on. Yeah.
Oh my god, all the ways back here. Oh my god, this is all the ways back here. Oh my god, I was doing so well. Oh my god. That repeated voice line, man. I remember playing this on first time on Crushing. I got tired of hearing that repeated voice line. After finally beating this encounter, we died to something. I honestly don't know what to say here. What? What the was that? In a later encounter, we're introduced to enemies that rush you. These enemies don't shoot you, but try to fight you in hand-to-hand combat. And from my understanding, you can't actually fight these enemies hand-to-hand because they'll always counter your attacks. Thankfully though, they can't counter bullets. Another encounter shortly after, I approach it stealthily, but die a couple times. One due to me just letting go of a ledge. But on my third attempt, I actually completed the encounter without getting spotted. I also didn't know you could take down heavily armored enemies with stealth takedowns. Completing this encounter stealthily was a first for me and genuinely surprised me that I was able to do it. Afterwards, Nate and Sam scaled this tower in search of Libertalia. PS5 enhancements aside, for a game over 8 years old, it still looks as good as games released today. The graphics still hold up to today's standard even without the bells and whistles of things like ray tracing. Moving ahead, we're discovered by Shoreline, who destroy everything in our path during our escape. And when being helped up from this ledge, I somehow take damage despite not being hit with gunfire. Shots being fired here don't actually come near me, but I still end up dead anyway. What in the hell? Anyway, we're eventually stopped by Nadine and have another fight with her, this time with Sam helping us.
Hey, Nadine. Great to see you again. Okay, mango.
What are you on about?
Oh, it's my safe word.
Are you always this clever?
In a later chapter, we're teaming up with Elena in this encounter. And like the encounter from before that felt like 2 encounters, this one is really hard. The encounter arena is vertical with a turret at the top and enemies scattered on different levels of the area. The ground is slippery mud, so you're forced to traverse on these grassy rocks. There are opportunities to be stealthy with tall grass, but my attempts to take out even one enemy gets me spotted. It feels like enemies don't have a limited view cone like other games, which gets me spotted and going loud. And going loud usually ends up me dying pretty quickly. Come on. What kind of angle can I get on these enemies? How did you see me? Who is shooting me? I don't know who is shooting me. I can't even see them. The shrubbery works against me here. There are very little places in this encounter where enemies can't flank you and shoot you from afar. I don't know how to get past these enemies. I don't have any cover where there is not covered by an enemy. And being shot from distant enemies is difficult to deal with because your shots are harder to land. This encounter is where you feel the difficulty in full force. It forces me to play cautiously and find areas where I was safe from gunfire. Wait till we kill that last guy. I thought you killed him. Okay, got him.
Okay.
Later in the same chapter, we're ascending on this elevator and have another encounter. This encounter has limited cover and enemies with the high ground. On my first 2 attempts, I didn't have any pistol ammo, but on my 3rd attempt, I noticed the game gave me pistol ammo. I've heard about this difficulty mechanic in the Uncharted games, but I didn't expect this on crushing difficulty. At the top of this waterfall, I was pinned with no pistol ammo and grenades being thrown at me. I had to be daring and come out of cover and kill the enemies with little ammo and grenades I had. It was definitely a close fight, but I pulled through. Anyway, we continue to make our way up in another elevator. And in the story at this point, Elena's and Nate's marriage is strained because Nate lied to Elena for weeks to find Captain Avery's treasure with Sam. Here we get optional dialogue where Nate asks what made Elena almost not come back to him.
So what made you change your mind?
Hmm?
You said you almost didn't come back.
Well, I couldn't leave when you were clearly in over your head. And, you know, there's that whole marriage vow thing.
For better or worse.
Yeah. For better or worse.
And honestly, you really feel their marriage crumbling in this moment. With all the frustrations with encounters so far, this moment still makes a lasting impression on me. Plain and simple, that's what good storytelling is. Moving forward, in New Devon, we have another encounter in a flooded area. This encounter has a lot of enemies, most of which have armor. It's also a unique area because if I get spotted, I could dive into the water for a quick getaway. The water also serves as cover because enemies can't shoot underwater. So this encounter becomes a matter of taking out a few enemies and diving into the water to lose the rest of the enemies. Rinse and repeat until all the enemies are dead. But that's easier said than done. Oh, shotgun guy got me. Oh, do I have to restart this entire counter? Ah. I swear enemies spot me so much easier. Ah, what the? Ah, that was a little janky. Holy crap, that was quick. Get in the water, Nate. Oh my god. To my surprise, Elena did a silent takedown to help me. Partners do occasionally kill enemies in encounters, but I didn't expect them to do a silent takedown. Also, I get the Barak 44 Magnum here and waste the last few enemies.
Oh boy.
Okay, we got it. That weapon's underrated.
Yeah.
What is it? Barak 44. Seriously, this gun is such a good weapon for this playthrough. That is, if you could find ammo for it. In a later encounter in this house, I find myself constantly on the move from this minigun enemy. He slowly walks towards you as I'm taking out enemies while moving cover to cover. This encounter was difficult in that there feels like no safe place from gunfire. There are 2 snipers on the floor above us, and in combination with the minigun enemies and regular enemies, there's constant pressure to be on the move. I often peek out of cover to kill an enemy or two and go back into cover to heal. And honestly, on this difficulty, that's what most encounters are. There's also an enemy with a China Lake grenade launcher that often damages me or kills me. This encounter alone takes several attempts to beat. Damn it, the China Lake killed me. I was doing so good. I got greedy. I can't believe I didn't die from that. I died from that though. Oh my god, this is punishing. They restart the entire counter. It's doing so well too.
Jesus. You alright?
Yeah. They were.
Yeah, we stopped a small army. Although tough, it was not as frustrating as previous encounters because it felt doable on repeat attempts. In the next chapter, you're inside a cave with exploding mummies. And while I was able to avoid most of the exploding mummies, this later area with plenty of mummies was difficult. How do I dodge these?
I'm okay.
No, you're not. I get freaking comboed by these mummies. I don't know how to dodge them. Jump out of the way, jump out of the way, jump out of the way, jump out of the way. Prance around. Which one of these are gonna light up? Holy crap. Okay, so jump around. Like that. Dodge all the explosions. Oh, you cannot run back. How do you dodge these? Come on, man. He gets stunned by the explosion and you're kind of stuck. Come on, jump, 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 jump. Like. Oh, boy. I gotta prance around like a, I don't know, like. Jump, Nate, jump, 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 jump. I'm gonna die, 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 get by the way, Atlanta. These ones, I gotta sit next to it right here. I gotta move the way, jump out of 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 the way. Okay, made it past that part. Shortly after, we get a puzzle in which we must avoid exploding floor traps. You use this legend to avoid platforms with explosives beneath it, depending on how the symbol is orientated. And instead of explaining it, I'll show how well that went. I gotta memorize this. So, skull, bottom right, ship, top 2, cross, all of them except for the top left. I did not memorize that very well. Okay. So, oh, it's the direction of the skull. Okay, so the skull, it's upside down. Yeah, so this way instead. The crosses are facing down, so this would be it right here. The ship is upside down, so. No, that wasn't it. It's the only spot on the cross that's good. Which? Okay, the top 2 there are bad. The skull right there. Let's go around this way.
There.
Okay, you got it.
Your face.
A little funny thing I like to show here, in the next chapter, I was running from this truck only to be stopped by a barrel and killed. Well, I got stuck on a barrel. Nearing the end of our adventure, we get this tricky traversal part. The difficulty has no effect here, so it comes down to how bad I was at this part. What? Oh, come on. Again? Oh my god, no, 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 no. It goes to show the difficulty doesn't always determine how often you die in this game. Later inside Captain Avery's burning ship, Nate, Sam, and Rafe are all trapped inside. Here we have our climactic finale with Rafe in a sword fight. In the fight, Rafe telegraphs his attacks and you must block either his left or right attack. It gets increasingly difficult as Rafe becomes more aggressive with his attacks and you must block them in quick succession. And yes, crushing difficulty does make this fight difficult because if you get hit once or sometimes twice, you'll die. Oh, what?
A little disappointed, Nate.
I died in one hit. Oh my gosh. That's so surprising. Oh my god, okay. Yeah, this fight's gonna be hard. That's one hit kill. I cannot afford to make a mistake. And I made another mistake. I was anticipating this fight to be hard on this difficulty, but yeah, I was right. Oh, damn it. I was doing good that fight too. What? Did I miss? Oh, I missed. Wow, I was late on the timing.
You want the treasure, Rafe? It's all yours.
In the epilogue, we're thrown right back into Sonic's ass game. But this time, I was determined to beat Elena's score. Oh, I beat her score. I beat her score by 16 points. And that was Uncharted 4 in crushing difficulty. While this difficulty is too hard for a casual playthrough of Uncharted 4, this did not take away from my experience of replaying the game. Crushing difficulty only really affects encounters in a select few other parts of the game. Encounters are almost secondary to the game's slower parts, including the story, cutscenes, and even the traversal. And encounters mostly don't even comprise half of a chapter. There are entire chapters of this game when Nate was a kid with his older brother Sam. I honestly enjoyed these slower moments and other ones like Nate and Elena's conversation because they broke up difficult encounters often, almost as a means to counterbalance some of the frustrations in my playthrough. And I could have easily skipped these parts, but I chose not to. Rather, I wanted to experience the entirety of this game even when the crushing difficulty had no effect on the gameplay. So should you play crushing difficulty in Uncharted 4? Yes, but only if you already played this game before. For casual gamers, this is a great story to experience on easier difficulties. Crushing difficulty dials up the combat to 11, so it's best to be experienced with the game's cover shooter mechanics in a previous playthrough. And this difficulty demands that you be conserving of ammo and make each shot count. There were countless times where I was pinned with little ammo to deal with tough, armored enemies. In combination with sometimes janky movement and this difficulty's punishing restarts, it can be frustrating to play. And this can sour your experience of Uncharted 4, even with how often encounters are broken up with slow parts of the game. So to conclude, don't play this difficulty on your first playthrough. Be familiar with Uncharted 4 before tackling the hard challenge that is crushing difficulty. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.